For over 20 years, the Burmese python ruled the Everglades. It had no predators, no competition, no reason to fear anything moving through the sawgrass. Scientists called it the most successful invasive predator in modern American history. Then something changed. In late 2023, researchers tracking radio-tagged pythons started noticing a pattern that didn't make sense. Snakes were going silent, not migrating, not hiding, just gone. At first, the team assumed equipment failure, old transmitters, dead batteries, a flooded swamp swallowing signals. But when they walked the coordinates, they kept finding the same thing. Torn skin, crushed skulls, pythons 12 feet long, ripped open from the belly. Something was killing them, something fast, something strong enough to overpower a fully grown constrictor. And it was happening across hundreds of square miles of protected wetland. A wildlife biologist working out of Homestead said it bluntly. We've spent 2 decades trying to wipe out these pythons. Now something else is doing it for us, and we don't know what we're dealing with yet. The Everglades had a new predator, quieter than the alligator, smaller than the panther, and smart enough to hunt the unhuntable. What scientists eventually uncovered didn't just rewrite the python crisis. It exposed something nobody saw coming. The first python carcass was found near Shark Valley in October 2023. A field technician named Marcus Hill was wading through shallow water when his boot brushed against something soft. He looked down and froze. A 14-foot python lay split open across a bed of cypress roots. Its body was still warm. Hill had worked the Everglades for 9 years. He had seen alligator kills, hog attacks, even territorial fights between snakes. This was different. The skull had been crushed inward. The spine was severed in 3 places. And the wound on the belly looked surgical, like something had peeled the snake open to reach the organs. He radioed it in. Within 48 hours, 2 more carcasses were reported by airboat operators near Flamingo, both adult females. Both killed the same way. Then a 4th, then a 7th. By November, biologists at the South Florida Water Management District had logged 19 mutilated pythons across a 60-mile stretch of wetland. A senior researcher named Dr. Alan Reyes started reviewing the field photos at his desk in Naples. He studied the bite patterns, the depth, the spacing of the puncture wounds. He sat back in his chair and didn't speak for almost a minute. His assistant asked him what was wrong. Reyes said only one thing: whatever did this isn't supposed to be here. He pulled up a map of the kill sites and began connecting them with red pins. The pattern formed a slow, deliberate line. Something was moving through the Everglades, and it was hunting in a straight path. Reyes took the map to his colleagues at the University of Florida's Wildlife Lab. They argued for hours. One researcher suggested a rogue alligator. Another blamed feral hogs. A third proposed black bears wandering down from the northern preserves. None of it fit. Alligators don't peel snakes open. Hogs don't crush skulls. And no bear had ever been documented hunting an adult python in open water. Then a graduate student named Devin Park pulled up trail cam footage from a research site near Mahogany Hammock. The team gathered around the screen. The clip was 38 seconds long, recorded at 2:14 in the morning. A python, easily 13 feet, was moving slowly through the underbrush. Then something dropped from above. The footage blurred. Leaves shook violently. The python's tail whipped across the frame. And then stillness. Whatever struck the snake had moved too fast for the camera to focus. Park rewound the clip, slowed it down, frame by frame. On frame 19, they saw it. A shape, lean, muscular, low to the ground. Not a gator, not a panther, not a bear. Something with a long body and a narrow head. Reyes leaned in closer to the screen. He whispered, "That's not native." The room went quiet. Park checked the GPS data on the camera. The site was 42 miles from the nearest road. Deep wetland, almost no human access. Whatever was hunting in there had traveled a long way to reach it. And it wasn't alone. The next morning, 3 more python carcasses were reported, all within a 2-mile radius of the trail cam. Reyes assembled a small field team within 72 hours. 4 men, 2 airboats, thermal cameras, motion sensors, and a satellite uplink for live tracking. They set up a base camp near Mahogany Hammock and waited. The first night, Nothing moved. The second night, the thermal cameras picked up a heat signature crossing a shallow channel just before midnight. It wasn't a python. It wasn't a gator. The body shape was wrong for both. Park watched the monitor for almost 10 minutes as the figure moved with strange confidence, pausing, scanning, then sliding back into the brush. He called Reyes over. Reyes studied the footage and shook his head slowly. "It's hunting," he said. "It knows the terrain." That was the part that disturbed him. Invasive species don't usually move like that in unfamiliar landscapes. They blunder. They get lost. They show stress patterns. This animal didn't. It moved like something that had been here for years. The next morning, the team found a fresh python carcass less than 300 meters from the camera site. But this one was different. The body had been dragged. A long groove cut through the wet soil, leading away from the kill site and disappearing into a thick patch of mangrove roots. Reyes followed the trail on foot. What he found at the end of it stopped him cold. A pile of bones, python vertebrae, dozens of them, stacked in a shallow depression beneath the roots. This wasn't a single kill. It was a feeding ground, and whatever was using it had been doing so for a very long time. Reyes counted the bones twice. At least 11 separate pythons, maybe more. Some of the vertebrae were old, bleached white by sun and tide. Others were fresh, still carrying traces of dried tissue. Whatever lived here had been killing pythons for years before anyone noticed. That single fact rewrote the entire investigation. For 2 decades, biologists assumed pythons sat at the top of the Everglades food chain, untouchable, invincible, reproducing faster than humans could remove them. But something had been quietly thinning their numbers from the shadows, and the scientific community had missed it completely. Reyes called the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission that same evening. He requested every trail cam archive from the past 5 years across Everglades National Park. When the footage came in, the team spent 3 nights reviewing it without sleeping. Park found the first clear image at 4 a.m. on the 3rd night. It was a still frame from June 2021. A long, dark animal stood at the edge of a drainage canal. Its head was lowered. Its eyes reflected the infrared light. Reyes stared at the image for almost a minute before speaking. "I know what this is," he said quietly. He didn't sound relieved. He sounded worried. Because the animal in the photo wasn't supposed to exist in Florida. Not in those numbers. Not that deep in the wetlands. And definitely not behaving the way it was behaving. Reyes pulled out his phone and called a colleague at the U.S. Geological Survey. He spoke only 9 words. "We have a population, and it's been here for years." The next morning, he flew to Washington. What he was about to report would change federal wildlife policy within months. Reyes presented his findings at a closed federal briefing in early 2024. The animal hunting the pythons wasn't an exotic invader. It wasn't an escaped pet. It wasn't something smuggled in. It was native. The Florida bobcat, Lynx rufus floridanus, had quietly learned to hunt one of the most dangerous invasive predators on the continent. For years, biologists had written off bobcats as too small, too cautious, too territorial to challenge a fully grown python. They were wrong. Camera evidence showed bobcats attacking pythons from above, dropping from low branches, striking the skull, severing the spine before the snake could coil. They had adapted. They had learned the python's blind spots, its sluggish post-meal vulnerability, its predictable nesting routes. And they were teaching their young to do the same. Reyes called it the fastest behavioral evolution he had ever documented in a North American mammal. Genetic analysis later confirmed the kill sites were the work of a stable, multi-generational bobcat population that had been quietly rebuilding for nearly a decade. The pythons that once threatened to collapse the Everglades food chain were now being pushed back by the very ecosystem they invaded. By mid-2025, python sightings in the southern Everglades had dropped by an estimated 36%. Bobcat populations had risen accordingly. Reyes summarized it in a single line during his final report. The Everglades didn't need us to save it. It just needed time. It was one of the rarest outcomes in modern ecology, a native predator reclaiming its land without human intervention. A quiet correction, a slow comeback. A story almost no one noticed until the bones started piling up. If you enjoy real stories hidden in plain sight, subscribe for the next one.